Welcome to Belmont Banter, the official podcast of Whitstable Town FC. Every week we chat to ex-players, supporters and invited guests here on Belmont Banter.
Welcome to the official podcast of Whitstable Town FC.
Whitstable Town Football Club's main sponsor is Fibertech UK Limited.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Belmont Banter. And this week we've got James Sherman on the phone. And James, as you will know if you've been connected with Whitstable Town, had a spell with us. But Australia's the home for you, really, James, isn't it? So start us off on your football journey, and then perhaps you tell us how you come to the UK.
Hi, Tony. So I started football very much like a lot of other young lads, with a football as a present as a kid, and played with the school team from the age of 7. And yeah, just kind of went from there. Obviously, being an Australian lad, we have access to a lot of other sports, and football isn't the main one. I can remember growing up, there's a channel that used to have the football on it, and it was only the one channel. It was the international channel. So, you know, on a Sunday afternoon for a couple of hours, you'd get one Premier League match. You'd only have an hour and a half, one Premier League match. And a lot of the time that was Manchester United for whoever they were playing, because it's through the 90s and they were the roaring success at the time. And that's what football was like, especially here in Australia.
So your first sort of contact with them was obviously at a junior level. Was it with the school team?
Yeah, so I went to a school here, a Christian school, and we just had a standard sort of under 7s, under 8s, up to under 12 sort of side, and we wore red, black, and white, and we called ourselves the Devils. And that, obviously, being a Christian school, that got canned pretty quickly when the staff found out. No, it was pretty basic stuff, a couple goals and pitch marked out, and just got on with it. It was entry level football, and it was really good. So that was under 7s.
Under 7s.
That was under 7s. So it's I think it's pretty similar to the UK in terms of when football starts, or organised football starts.
Yeah.
And then from there, it sort of moves into youth football here, which is 13s, 14s, 15s and 16s. But where I live in Tasmania, so that's the little island down the bottom of the bigger continent of Australia. And especially then, football didn't have the ambition or the support around it that it does today here. And so anyone that was interested in having more from their football or developing more from their football had to move away. And so I got to 16 and I had a year or two of senior football here and decided that I wanted some more. And so I moved to Melbourne. And from there, the environment's a lot bigger, the standards a lot higher, the exposure's a lot more. Yeah, and things kind of slowly developed.
When you said you moved to Melbourne, do you mean just you on your own then?
Just me on my own, yes. I moved out of home and I'd contacted a club the year before and organised some trials and they went well. And my mum said, look, you can go, but you have to finish your minimum education first. And so I finished that. And then when it all eventuated and moved, she said, I'd like you to at least finish your, it was called VCE. So that's like your entry level into university stuff. Anyway, so I got in touch with the club again and they organised me accommodation and a place to live. And then they organised to sneak me into a school. By that time, all the schools had shut off their acceptance of students, and they managed to sneak me into one. I think one of the staff at the club was a teacher there, and they got me into a school. And I ended up living with the club's assistant coach and his family for 18 months. And I think not long after that, I kind of moved in with some teammates.
So that was quite an adventure then.
It was. It's probably best decision I ever made, because I was, at 16, mum did all the cooking and washing and cleaning and all that sort of stuff, and moved out of home. And none of that happened anymore, and I had to grow up pretty fast. So it was probably the best decision of my life to do that.
That was good. And what team were you playing for then?
So that was at a club called Brunswick City. And then from there, I spent a season and went to a top tier club in Victoria called Whittlesea Zebras. And they were a merger of two clubs. So let me put it into context. Here in Australia, all the clubs have a heritage or ethnicity background. So football really started from a lot of the migrants that moved to Australia. And so you have hundreds of clubs, but they're from Greek heritage. So their supporters started them that were from Greece or Croatia or Serbia, Italian. And so a lot of the clubs still have those roots attached, heavily attached. And so the club called Whittlesea Zebras was a merger of two Italian clubs. We were managed actually that season by a fella called Peter Ollerton, who was I think Peter was from Yorkshire, so he's a Yorkshireman. And he'd immigrated to Australia shortly before, I think it was the 1972 World Cup or 76 World Cup, I believe. And he represented the Socceroos at their first ever World Cup.
Oh, brilliant. So he was some player then.
Oh, he was some player and some manager too. Probably the best man manager that I'd ever had. Yeah, and that was an exceptional experience. It was a great season too. We had a really good side, and we made what's called the grand final here because it's just the setup of the league is a little different to what it's like in the UK.
Really good. Just let me take me back to Tasmania again, because I can understand why you moved away, but could you just put into context how many teams there might be in how big is Tasmania?
So Tasmania, in terms of the geographical size, I don't know what I could compare it to. But in Hobart, the capital city, there's 275,000 people.
Oh, big,
I think the general population of Tasmania is around the 600,000 mark. Yeah, a lot of it's inhabitable because of the mountains. So the mountain and the landscape on the west coast you can't access.
Right. Okay. So you're in Australia. You're now about 18. You're enjoying your football. You're playing for a decent club. You've got a really good manager. What was the next move?
So I'd been playing then in the Victorian Premier League, or what was called the Victorian Premier League, for a season and a half, 2 seasons, and it got to the point where I was trying to make it as a career at least, or move to as high a standard of football as my ability would take me, and I just got some opportunity to go and trial at some top league clubs in Australia, and then from there I came over to the UK actually and had some trials. So I had a trial at Scunthorpe United when they just got relegated from the Championship, and the manager there at the time was Nigel Adkins.
Yeah.
And then from there I spent 3.5 weeks at Port Vale, who at the time were in League Two, and nothing really happened there. And after that I spent a week down at Sligo Rovers, which was a great experience. But by then, it had become pretty clear that the opportunities weren't going to happen, and I just wasn't really at the standard of professional full-time football, and came back to Australia, and moved to a club called Melbourne Knights, which is a Croatian-supported club. That's a club where Mark Vaduka started his career. Joe Simonic, who is another Croatian international player that grew up in Australia. So that's probably one of, if not the biggest club outside the A-League here in Australia. Yeah.
It was certainly one of the ones that I've heard of, Melbourne Knights, without a doubt. Yeah. Well, one of the top. You're back in Australia again. How come you pitched up at Whitstable Town then?
Also, it was 2010, I moved to the UK because I'd met Ian Pullman when I was playing at Melbourne Knights.
Oh, that's right, because Ian was there, wasn't he?
Ian was there, that's right. And so that's how I had the connection, or at least direction, to move over and ended up in Thanet. And so I'd moved to the UK and was living with Pulley. And I think it was Mark Monday. He was the coach at the time, yeah. So when I first moved, I was going to transfer to Whitstable straight away. But I think, for whatever reason, have maybe just taken the job or finances, and it just didn't work out. And so I didn't sign for anyone when I first moved over, because it was March when I got there. Yeah. Anyway, so I left it until the pre-season, and I started at Margate, And then after maybe a couple of months at Margate, I ended up at Whitstable, and the goalkeeping coach, I think Laney, is it?
Yeah, Mark Lane, yeah.
Laney had just taken over, and I spent, I don't know how long it was, Tony, maybe 3 months. And then was it Peter Knott? I think Peter Knott.
Peter Knott came in, yeah.
He came in, and I remember I got sent off for one game, and it was in December, and it was a standard 3-game suspension. It took something like 7 or 8 weeks to get the suspension served because we had so many game postponements that I just didn't do anything for something like 8 months, for 8 weeks.
The UK weather, eh?
The UK weather.
God, dear, oh dear, oh dear. And you got to correct me if I'm wrong here. I've seen you play it, and I'm fairly certain in my mind, it was a while ago, a good few years ago now, but I'm fairly certain in my mind you were a sort of, I would describe you as a graceful midfielder. Would I be right? Striding
Tony,
forward.
You can describe me like that to anyone and everyone if you like, but I reckon there's a fair few people that may disagree with you, mate.
But you did play midfield, yes?
I do play midfield. I did play midfield.
Right,
that's right.
Yeah. I thought you did. I actually liked the way you played, to be honest. It was.
Oh, mate, I ran around a lot. I had lots of energy. There's not too much graceful about my football, mate.
After your period at Whitstable, having said that you tried the program and felt that, you were quite honest enough to say that, you knew you weren't going to make the grade. How much longer did you stay in the UK then?
Well, then, so from Whitstable, what did I do? I think I had a little bit of time off, and I spent some time at Herne Bay. And then I look at the majority of my football was played at Ramsgate Football Club.
Yeah.
So I was there for 3 seasons. Yeah, so I spent my time there, and
the manager
I really
at the time,
enjoyed it.
Was it Jim Ward was there?
No, I never played for Wardy. Tim Dixon, good manager. Tim Dixon, good manager. So that he was probably in charge of the best spell that I was involved with at the club there at the time. And then after Tim, we had Justin Lutchford for a very brief period, Dean Hill for half a season, and then Simon Halsey.
All right. Oh, so you.
Yeah.
All the guys I know. I mean, Simon.
All the guys.
Yeah.
Well, all the guys I played for all the clubs that everyone else did at the time, which I'm sure still happens.
It does. That little part of southeast Kent is like a round robin, isn't it? Do you know?
It is.
Listen to this. I spoke to you'll see this coming up in the future. There's a guy called Lee Bossum who was a good centre forward for us a few years ago, and I just did an interview with his father, who also played for the town years and years ago, but also ended up as manager. And the pair of them spent their whole career between Whitstable, Snowdon, Ashford, Canterbury City, Snowdon, Whitstable, Ashford, Canterbury City. It was like a round robin. Unbelievable. Yeah. But it's just that little corner, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Look, it's also so close, and players want to play, don't they? And if you're not getting opportunities at some places, it's just very, very simple to go down the road, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. You finished your career UK-wise at Ramsgate. How old were you then?
I was 26. So I was 26 when I finished up at Ramsgate. And that's when 2015, I moved back to Tasmania, where I'm at now.
But you'd moved away from Tasmania because the football opportunities weren't really there. Had things changed a lot then?
Yeah, they had. So it wasn't probably long after when I moved to the UK in 2010, I knew that in terms of a professional career or anything of a very decent standard wasn't going to happen. So, but I still loved playing, and, there's an opportunity to earn a little bit of money on the side as well as work. And that's what I did in the UK. I did my carpentry apprenticeship in the UK. So I learned my trade. Yeah, so that was, when I moved back to Tasmania, in terms of a career in playing or opportunities in playing, I just wanted to enjoy it. And, financially, if there was opportunity to earn some money playing here as well, I was going to take that. But the focus was probably going to move away to coaching at some stage.
What club did you rejoin, or did you join a different club when you got back to Tasmania?
So when I got back to Tasmania, I joined the club that I'd left 10 years earlier.
That happens, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
and that was a club called.
It's that comfort factor, isn't it? You know people.
Yeah, yeah. It had changed heavily. So that's a club called Hobart Zebras, or it was a club called Hobart Zebras. It was Italian in its ethnicity. They've now merged with another club called Clarence Zebras. But I spent a season there and then dropped down a division and moved to the club I'm currently at now.
And the club that you're currently at now, we've literally gone full circle, which is what this is all about, really. You've now taken on a completely different role to just playing football, haven't you?
Yeah, correct. So I'm now at a club called Glenorchy Knights. And my role there is I'm head coach. So we have the league we play in is called National. It's a National Premier League, even though it is geographically split up into the states. So it's the Tasmanian National Premier League. And I'm the head coach there, and I have a role there which is called a technical director. Essentially, my job is to develop player pathways from youth into senior football. So we want to develop and grow our players into the first team. And the same thing for the coaching staff. We want to develop our coaches so they're able to work at a higher level as possible or develop players as best as possible. My role also stretches into developing routes and pathways into primary schools in our municipality because we do have a junior club as well, but we want to try and draw as many players to the club as possible and build the club into a destination club that people know that they can come to and receive decent football education and feel safe, and it's fun and family friendly.
Good words to use then. Feel safe. That's so important. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, it is now. It is now.
When these kids are sort of like, what's your youngest do you take them in now? 7, 8?
Under 6s, under 7s, yeah.
Yeah. Very impressionable age, and you've got to make sure that all the everything's in place to safeguard them and also safeguard others around them. As far as numbers within the club, how many teams have do you have to manage now, in a sense, overall manage?
So that we've got 3 men's senior sides. So we have the National Premier League, and then we have a reserve side, and then another reserve side under that. We have 2 senior women's sides. We have a social side, which is all the old boys over 35 that still like to have a run around. No, that's not me. I'm only 32, Tony. I see you pointing, mate. And then we've got an 18 side, a 16s, 2 15s, 14s, 3 youth girls sides, 13s, and then obviously our juniors, which range from under 12s to under 6s, and there's a fair few there as well.
That's good.
So we've got over 400 registered players at the club.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. And I presume, this is an assumption, I don't really know, but is it a bit like the way that the world's going as far as the UK is concerned now? With the focus on youth, any funding that's available comes almost via the youth section.
Oh, very much so. And that's been the problem with Australian football for some time. Well, you just touched on it. It's a worldwide issue. A lot of the funds at the top are drawn from the grassroots level. We're quite lucky in terms of the NPL setup. So our first team setup, when I say lucky, the committee at the club work extremely hard, and they have a lot of very good connections that they're able to draw fantastic sponsorship. So the finances that go in towards the men's side and the women's sides, and my job essentially, come from the sponsorship that they're able to drive from businesses around the community.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to be interested in checking on your club. So when this is all over, if you'd send me a link to it, please.
Look, you can see it all on YouTube. So our games are live streamed.
All right, brilliant.
So all our fixtures are live streamed. You can watch it on YouTube. You just go to Football Tasmania, and it will come up with the live stream link, and National Premier League. You can watch Women's Super League games, which is the top female state league in the state, the Men's National Premier League. What I'll say about Tasmania is, the standard is improving and the application to the game is improving. The quality hasn't been there for quite some time, but that's going in the right direction. But the attitude towards it is really great. Like, the club's facilities are all pretty good. The supportive behaviour is really good. Clubs treat players fairly. and having every game videoed is, they're straight up on live stream. If you're a supporter and you can't get to the game, you can sit on your laptop or on your phone and you can watch your side play. And if you want to watch the opposition, it's just as easy to do.
Yeah. What do you actually do to record it? Do you use, is it VO? What do you use then?
So buy on stream. So the state federation or the governing body, that's part of the license the clubs pay to be in the top division. A portion of that license fee goes towards this company having professional audio and visual set up there. So
Brilliant.
They're able to access. Well, from what I can understand is I think the governing body receives some financial help from a lot of betting agencies now, Tony. So there's a lot of betting happening on the football, and we got 14 games in our season last year. There are 8 sides in our league, and with the COVID stuff, that was obviously cut down to 14. We played each other twice home and away, and we got nearly a proper season for us.
On COVID now, what's the situation at the moment?
Well, in Tasmania, we haven't had a case for, I think it's just under a year. Not one.
Not one?
We were not one. No, we were incredibly lucky. We were a little island, Tony. So when everything kind of went to pot, they shut the borders down. They, made a lot of legislation or law to restrict people's ability to socialise. Quarantining, things like that were really heavy. But it's easier to police, mate, because you've got to get on a boat for 12 hours or you've got to fly on a plane for an hour before getting in the place. Yeah. And there aren't many people that are willing to get on the boat across the Bass Strait for 12 hours. And then from there, like anyone that comes in gets tested. And if you've been in a hot spot where there's been a breakout, you've got to stay indoors for 2 weeks. And yeah, like I said, life here has been just about normal for 8 months. And the 4 months before that, a lot of people in hospitality lost a lot of time, but the government put out some great support schemes so people weren't losing too much money. It's been hard for a handful of people, I'm sure, but on a whole, and compared to the UK, we're almost everyday normal life.
And what about you work-wise yourself? You said you're a carpenter.
Oh, I know. So that's another story too. When I moved back to the UK, I'd had enough of the construction industry completely, and I ended up moving completely to a different sector. So I'm now in education. So I'm a teacher's assistant. So I work in a primary school or primary schools in classes with high need students, so kids with autism or learning disabilities or Down syndrome, that sort of stuff, behavioural issues as well. Quite often I work with young boys who don't often enjoy the structure of a classroom so much, shall we say, Tony? But being a younger guy, I think they relate a little bit more than if it was someone's nan or someone's mum. Yeah. So and that for me has been my job for the last 3 years, and I've taken the hours down a little bit now that the football stuff has got busier, and it's an incredibly rewarding job.
Yeah, I think probably you're probably aware of this, but your association with groups of people on the pitch and being able to take on a number of different people's problems, issues, whatever, helps in the classroom as well, doesn't it?
Look, in terms of your emotional intelligence, they're a handy skill to have for sure, but that's the beauty of sport. If you're involved with working in a team with other individuals, and they've all got what they think's best, and you've got what you think's best, and managing those things together, and then hopefully going in the same direction at the same time. That's why we play sport from an early age. On top of the exercise, it's the whole lot, isn't it?
Absolutely. Speaking to a guy the other night, and he was a forward, and he had a guy who always played alongside him for this season, and they just didn't like each other. It was just a clash of personalities. But on the pitch, they were a great team together. He said it was really bizarre.
That's it, and that's one of the main aspects of my role now is how can I get the best out of players? But you've got, like I said before, guys that all want different things from their football. And I suppose the job of a manager or a coach is to get that player to understand that we want the best for you too. We can't do that for everyone. How can we align what you want in with the same as another person, and then manage to get the strengths from you and the strengths of that person combining together for what helps the team out best? And it's great that sort of situation is they don't have to get on off the pitch, but on the pitch, the chemistry is important.
The thing that's been stuck in the back of my mind is, how did you get on playing with Pulley? Did you like playing with Pulley?
No one likes playing with Pulley. Absolutely no one likes playing with Pulley. A centre forward that can't hold a ball up, I honestly, an enigma. He is though, isn't he? But there's no questioning. He's his ability to score goals. But an awful decision maker. I'll never forget. This is at Ramsgate when Tim Dixon was in charge, and I think we finished just outside the playoff positions by a couple points. It was the last game of the season, and we're at home, and I can't remember the opposition. And I think it was 1-1 at a time, and we needed to win. And in the last 10 or so minutes, 20 minutes of the game, we get a penalty. Pulley flops in the box under a tackle. Sort of set up, right? Yeah, as he does. That's right. How his knees used to just drop out and his little belly would hit the ground. Anyway, he's gone to take this penalty and he's tried to Panenka it. Oh, you know what? Yeah. So, this is the end of the season and it's at Southwood. There's no grass in the 18-yard box. It's all dry dirt, and he's tried to little dink this penalty, and it just about bounced into the goalkeeper's arms. We drew the game on one and missed out on. I always remind him that it cost us promotion, because there's no doubt we would have got in the playoffs and then buzzed all the way through into the Ryan punishment.
What a wonderful story to finish up on. That is fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Oh, I'm going to love teasing him about that.
Oh, I hope he hears it. I'll be getting into him about it again.
Don't worry. He will, definitely, without a doubt. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. It really has been fun. And I'd like to thank you personally, because you've persevered. Originally, we had problems with the microphone and the sound. You're now all gizzed up with all your mic on, and it's fantastic audio now. And then through my ineptitude with our communication, I let you down the other day, but you persevered.
Well, it came into daylight savings time here as well, Tony. So when I'd said 8 o'clock, it turned into 9 o'clock without me even thinking about it either. So it really was a dog's breakfast of organisation. It's not getting better.
Yeah, but that's the time difference and everything else. I'll tell you what, James, not only has it been a pleasure to talk to you tonight, you give me a lot of pleasure when you played. I really enjoyed watching you play, mate. Don't do yourself down too much, because you really did glide over the pitch. Well, in my eyes, you did anyway.
Those glasses of yours must have fogged up at the time, mate.
Great. Okay, well, we'll have to finish. Nice chatting. Here. So from me here at Belmont Banter and James Sherwood, who's a much-travelled footballer all around the world virtually. So Tasmania, Australia, UK. It's been a pleasure, James. So thank you very much for taking the time, mate. And don't forget, when this comes out, send it to all your mates and tease Pulley about it as well.
He's probably the only one I'll be able to send it to then.
Thanks, James, very much indeed. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Whitstable Town Football Club's main sponsor is Fibertech UK Limited. They are providers of optical fibre services to the telecoms industry, specialising in optical fibre provision, local and long haul. We offer a full turnkey solution to our clients throughout London and the south of England. Contact us through the website for more details.
Your host, Tony Rouse, every week on Belmont Banter for news about local football in Kent and beyond.
I do hope that you've enjoyed today's episode of Belmont Banter. Don't forget there's a new episode out every week which comes out on a Sunday night, early Monday morning. And you can leave your suggestions for a guest to invite at the end. And leave a like, and don't forget to pass it on to all your mates. Cheers!